in the Ummagga Sutta, which I've shared on DSG several times, and which you also sent to me, it talks about how the monks approached the Buddha, and he said that he had taught the suttas, the Gaya, the Udana, the Jatakas, the Abhidhamma, the Vedala, and so on. And if a monk understands the meaning of Dhamma, even just a stanza of 4 lines, and lives according to the Dhamma, he is one who is widely learned and knows Dhamma by heart. So it's all about the understanding of just one word or a few lines. It's not the memorization of all the texts with no understanding. So would you like to discuss more about the Ummagga Sutta?
Yes, Kun Sarah, please continue.
Well, I think the point is sometimes people think of pariyatti as being the knowledge of lots of details and lots of numbers, and they think of the one who is very learned or who knows a lot about the Dhamma, the one who has a memory of all the details and the Pali and so on. But I think Ajahn's point is that, the Buddha's point is that the one who is learned of the Dhamma is the one who understands reality right now, even if it's just the right considering of a few words or a couple of lines is more precious and more valuable than the memorization of all the texts, but without real understanding. So it's all about the Abhidhamma, the suttas, it's all about the reality at this moment, understanding one word or a couple of lines now, well considered. And this is the pariyatti.
Sarah, could you repeat the name of the sutta again, please?
Yes, this is because after the discussion on Saturday, Ajahn sent it through to me. I've actually shared it before on DSG. It's called the Ummagga, Ummagga, Ummagga Sutta, and it's in Anguttara Nikaya, Book of Fours. And in English, often the translation is approach. Ummagga means approach, approaching the Buddha. And to go back to, I haven't got a good translation in front of me, but I have one that Borasak sent. Let me just share it. So it talks about how one of the monks went to the Buddha, sat down, and he said, "What leads the world on? What drags it around? What arises and takes control?" And the Buddha said, good, monk. Your approach and articulation are excellent, and it's a good question. You asked, what leads the world on? What drags it around? What arises and takes control? Yes, sir. Monk, the mind leads the world on. The mind drags it around. When the mind arises, it takes control. Saying, good sir, the monk approved and agreed with what the Buddha said. Then he asked another question. Sir, they speak of a learned memorizer of the teaching. How is a learned memorizer of the teaching defined? Good, monk. Your approach and articulation are excellent, and it's a good question. I've taught many teachings, statements, songs, discussions, verses, inspired exclamations, legends, stories of past lives, amazing stories, and classifications. But if anyone understands the meaning and the text of even a 4-line verse, And if they practice in line with that teaching, they're qualified to be called a learned memorizer of the teaching. Saying, "Good sir," that monk approved and agreed with what the Buddha said. Then he asked another question. "Sir, they speak of a learned person with penetrating wisdom. How is a learned person with penetrating wisdom defined?" Good, good monk, your approach and articulation are excellent, and it's a good question. Take a monk who has heard, "This is suffering." They see what it means with penetrating wisdom. They've heard, "This is the origin of suffering. This is the cessation of suffering. This is the practice that leads to the cessation of suffering." They see what it means with penetrating wisdom. That's how a person is learned, penetrating wisdom. Saying, "Good sir," that monk approved and agreed with what the Buddha said. Then he asked another question. Sorry, I don't have that. Sir, they speak of an astute person with good wisdom. How is an astute person with great wisdom defined? Good, good monk, your approach and articulation are excellent, and it's a good question. An astute person with great wisdom is one who has no intention to hurt themselves or to hurt others or to hurt both. When they think, they only think of the benefit for themselves, for others, for both, and for the whole world. That's how a person is astute with great wisdom.
Kunsara, I think it's a very nice sutta, and it brings us back again to the present moment, and also what is pariyatti. We keep sometimes the mind and our accumulations keep going on what is pariyatti, but it's not the present moment. It's not the understanding of what is now.
Yes. I think that's the main point, Trin. And as you say, if one just keeps thinking and talking about the story with attachment, trying to collect the details, trying to memorize the sutras or the verses, it's not the understanding of what appears right now. Thinking now, the seeing now, the attachment now, the understanding of what appears right now. This is the pariyatti. Number 186. Ajahn, when you shared the sutta, was there anything further you would like to discuss or add?
Yeah, I think that to understand just one word, it brings about the understanding of other words and the whole world, because it begins with the world. So it's a clear understanding of what is meant by just the world. Is there any word now?
Yes.
One word at a time. And what is that? The citta, the mind in the book, means that which experiences. Without that which experiences, there cannot be world anywhere at all. But now, what is the world? If there is no seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, what is there in the day and now, there is no world. So the world means that which arises and falls away. And usually, citta is the chief of experiencing an object. That's why sometimes lopa, citasika, arises with citta, and sometimes dosa and the other citasika arises with citta. So what is the chief of experiencing is now that which sees. No one knows how many Cetasikas are there without the teachings of the Buddha to learn to understand that it's not permanent at all. It is conditioned. That's why it brings about confidence of no I, no world, nothing. If nothing is there arising, otherwise there is nothing appears at all. Like now, what is seen now is conditioned for that which experiences to arise and experience that. That's all. From hearing again and again, it can bring about the moment of being aware of that which now appears. For example, right now, the words of the teaching of the Buddha can lead to the moment of studying that which appears, because no matter how much we talk about nama and rupa and citta and cetasika, they are only words which the intellectual understanding begin to understand the meaning of it, while the actual reality is there, not studied, not be the object of study at all. So what we learned, the point is to understand the truth of what is there now, because who knows that this moment is gone. No matter how much we are talking about this moment, it's not there anymore. So very rapidly, that's why it can deceive everyone to think that it's still there. But actually, who knows the rapidity of the arising and falling of moment to moment so fast. But to learn to understand who's the Buddha, the enlightenment, the great virtues of right understanding, which can talk about or show the truth of that which is now appearing to anyone who have conditions, chanda, to listen to the true words, to know the point, to understand, as he said, all dhammas, whatever is real, is not self at all. Anatta means nothing in it. That's why the Satya Barami, to be truthful to the truth, it can understand the difference between the level of intellectual understanding of the word of the Buddha and the moment when it is conditioned to be aware unexpectedly does not show up as unexpected at all, because we talk about anatta and we think that it's not self, it's conditioned, what is there arises and falls away. This is intellectual understanding, but the truth, the absolute truth is there, which can be known. That's why who knows the Buddha means who understand the subtlety of the profoundness of the teachings of reality, which now arises and falls away all the time. And even it's there from understanding intellectually, it can be more confidence of the truth. It doesn't go wrong. It protects one from Samnak Patibat, the meditation center and the other practice, just to not understanding that which is now appearing. That's why we talk about the reality which appears by different ways, aspects, like by way of dhatu, by way of ayatana, by way of Ariya Satya, by way of Paticca, but not as so very short or just run from this word to another word without the more understanding, deeper and deeper, to understand that which is now appearing. So just one word we can talk about it, and it will lead to more and more understanding of the truth of Dhamma. Because when we talk about citta and cetasikas, there can be the understanding of the difference that citta sees, it doesn't like or dislike. So at moment when like or dislike is there, it's not the citta which is the object, but it is the moment of beginning to understand the truth of that which is there by conditions. no one, and to see the difference that citta cannot be like or dislike because they're different. And the truth is that it can appear as it is only one by one to develop more understanding of the difference between each reality as not self, because each one is different from the others. That's all. So it's very daily life. And what is covered up, what covers the truth, ignorance, not understanding. That's why listen to understand the truth, and the understanding develops on and on until it can be understanding with direct awareness of that which is now appearing, unexpected. Which one? Because so many things. It can be the rupa, which is seen, or the sound, or the hearing, because that which experiences is not easy to be direct object of direct understanding with direct awareness. But it can, because it's there each moment. That's why it's achieved. While the other cetasika, not all of them can arise together with citta. Sometimes it's there and sometimes it's not. That's why citta is the chief of experiences, because it experiences all day, all time, any moment when it arises. And that is the world. If there is no experiencing of any object, how can there be that which we take for the world? And what we take for the world is not known as it is, just one world at a time. And when we talk about one world, it's not as long, because by understanding the processes from the sense door with Bhavanka in between and the mind door, so many moments, but the arising and falling of that which sees is there, while the other cittas are there, but no attention because it does not appear as the seeing right now. So each moment is unexpectedly how it is conditioned to develop, to understand each one as it is, as no one and nothing at all. And it is the wise attention or wise considering to understand this little by little. So one knows that no matter how much in this life one heard about the teachings, it can be accumulation. It can be accumulated to be conditions for more and more confidence of the truth. And that is the Bodhi Dhamma, not just Panya, but it needs other cetasikas as Parami too. So it's just now. Parami is now. Understanding is now of that which appears. By itself, no one can measure how much, but the truth is that is it understanding that which appears just only one with the characteristic which is not self. That which experiences at moment of touching, without that which experiences, hardness cannot appear at all. Even it's there, but at moment of touching, it's that which is touched, no one and no thing at all. That's why it begins to understand what is meant by reality and just one at a time. So only when hardness is there, how can there be the body and thing, pillow and picture, anything there at all? And it is there, appear as hardness, but the truth, the absolute truth of that is it arises and falls away, no more, never to arise again. And this is the enlightenment of the Buddha, who showed the way to develop panya little by little, to let go the idea of self, not conditioned to have more lopa, to know this or know that. But it's so true that only panya, which is truthful to the truth, can understand that it takes time to let go the idea of self and things around at any moment, because It is just a reality arising and falling away, unknown all the time because of the rapidity of the arising and falling away. And this is life. And this is what we are talking about right now. Citta, see, seeing and hearing and thinking, understanding, and whatever it is, which is not known until hearing the truth of the words of Buddha about the truth of all which are there in life. Never to return, never to rise again, just now. It's there, only there. See, so how great Panya can enlighten the truth, penetrate the truth, which is now no more, because everything which appears gone. And that can be directly experienced. So there are many levels of Panya or understanding. And this is the intellectual understanding. Very, very right, correct. Nobody can change. More confidence. And even confidence is not self. We can call it satta, and there is other cetasika as well, chanda, to listen. Even right now, it's not me, it's not anyone. It's a chanda, which is there. Interest to listen and consider the truth. No one there until the idea of self is completely eradicated. No condition for its arising anymore, but not just by hearing and considering and taking one's away from this moment to other subjects. And this is the way it is, little by little. Just let go. This is very important. Otherwise, what's the point of listening to these words? To let go the attachment to whatever is there with ignorance. Until ignorance is less and less, the truth of it, which is now appearing, can be direct object of understanding at any time by conditions, unexpected. Because the word unexpected is in every moment. Because seeing is unexpectedly arising. Who knows? Hearing is unexpected. But the truth of it, which is one at a time, does not appear yet. But Panya can develop to understand it, but with letting go, depending on conditions. So no matter the object is like, dislike, conceit, or whatever is there, it depends on conditions for Panya, right understanding, to begin to understand it directly when it's there or not. All depends on conditions. And this is the way to let go the idea of I can do or I is there, seeing, hearing. So it's quite a long, long way to go, no other way. And that is the way to let go. And the understanding of this, let go, the desire to get it very quickly in this life or that life, with no understanding at all. It's impossible. That's why it is the Four Noble Truths. The path is so very subtle because no one develops, but all the Eightfold Path developing. So there can be the understanding of the word that we have heard quite a lot. But the more hearing, considering, it can bring more understanding of letting go and no self. More natural, because life is unexpected each moment by conditions. So very natural. And the understanding of the truth can bring more parami in different ways, depending on condition. Just a moment in lifetime in samsara. But there are conditions for everything, conditioned by avijja. So only viccha or panya or right understanding eradicate or just begin to let go and eliminate little by little wrong understanding. It takes quite a long time because the truthfulness, Satya Parami, knows how much understanding of this moment. So very natural. And one can see the value, the precious moment of letting go. It does not disturb anyone, no attachment to begin to try to do this and that, but understanding the truth that without the words of the Buddha in different aspects, impossible to open up the truth of that which is now no more. Only once in samsara, not just only once in lifetime. And this is the words, when understanding is there, it let go. The idea of self tries so hard to do this and that to become enlightened. Impossible. Otherwise, that person does not really understand what is meant by Dhamma, even that, and what is meant by anatthaness. So, Panya develops naturally. No one knows. Only that person of Panya knows truly, truthfully, what is understanding of this as not self from hearing, but it's still something. The birds, the tree, everything is as a same, because it's not the moment when reality appears, reveal itself as no one there at all, and no world, only a reality is the object. And so it depends on how much understanding is there to understand that very moment or that reality which is there. Even its nama, even its rupa, all depends on how much panya which understand its of what degree of panya. Just like now, but it's not the same level. So that it's the way to understand that no self and panya is right understanding. And at that moment, less and less ignorance and attachment. But how very little it is compared to the accumulation of ignorance and attachment and all other akusala. So it's not doing anything, but when it's time, right understanding, just begin to be interested and begin to study that characteristic as it is, that which experiences, not that which is seen or heard. Just few words, but the profoundness of that word, the subtlety of the truth of it is there, but deeper and deeper and deeper. The same word.
Those who joined a little bit later, we started off studying or reading or considering the Ummagga Sutta in the Book of Fours in Anguttara Nikaya, which Ajahn wished to share. And it starts off with the monk asking the Buddha, by what is the world led? What is it dragged around? By what is it dragged around? So Ajahn was discussing what the world is like now. Seeing is the world, hearing is the world, one reality at a time. And what it is led by is citta. It talks about how it is led or dragged around by the mind. So as we know, Citta is the chief of experiencing, the innermost Dhamma. So if there is no Citta now, then no world is experienced even for an instant. So just in these one or two lines about world and being led by Citta or the mind, all the teachings can be found. We were discussing how the right considering of just one or two words is more precious than all the knowledge of the text. And the next question that the monk asks the Buddha is, a learned expert on the Dhamma, in what way is one a learned expert on the Dhamma? And I discussed this a little bit at the beginning. The Buddha says that he's taught many parts of the Tipitaka, the suttas, the Abhidhamma, the verses, the Udana, the Jatakas, and so on. But after just learning and considering wisely even one verse and understand it, one is a learned expert on the Dhamma. So it's not all the details and the number of texts, but the right understanding of just one word or a few words right now. The pariyatti has to be at this very moment of understanding. And the third question that the monk asks is, one of penetrative wisdom. What is the one of penetrative wisdom? Sorry, we keep losing the point in the text. The answer is that this is dukkha. They see what it means to understand that this is dukkha, this is the origin of dukkha, this is the cessation of dukkha, and this is the path leading to the cessation of dukkha. In other words, one of penetrating wisdom is the one that understands the noble truths now. So, and then the last one is, what is a wise person? One of great wisdom. And this is the one that doesn't intend or act for one's own affliction or the affliction of others or the affliction of both, but he thinks of the welfare of oneself, of others, of the whole world. This is one that is of great wisdom. I think it follows on from the understanding of the Four Noble Truths, but perhaps Ajahn would like to add more. Or anyone.
I have a comment about that, sort of. This morning when I was walking, I was thinking about what I've, about the Dhamma, and especially about there's no self. Things arise and fall away. And it's usually, well, for me anyway, it's usually relating back to me. Look, whatever arises here falls away. But then I start, because I kept walking past people with their dogs, saying hello. And then I thought, it's the same for everyone. It's arising and falling away for everyone. And And so then I thought, well, if there's strong wisdom that sees that often in a day, then there would be no harming others. There would be no harsh speech. You would be more aware of others and more tolerant, perhaps, of what others do. I mean, I've heard Ajahn say the others can do and say what they like. And I've often thought, but I sort of thought about that this morning, and it's true. You know, an arahat would not be perturbed about anything because there's no more kilesa. So that was my line of thought this morning, that, you know, the more I can see how it works, the more that one understands that these things are impermanent, doesn't belong to anyone, then it, I don't know, and then you see that everyone else is the same. There's probably less, like I said, less animosity towards others. That's all I've got to say about it.
Without condition, such thinking cannot arise. So usually we think about other things, people with dog and whatever is there, as usual. But by then, see, there is condition for such thinking, to not think about those around as before, but to think about that which has been listened for quite a long time, sometimes today or other day. See, without that, how can there be such thinking? So one can see the development of right understanding from hearing, it conditioned sutta, maya panya, and cinta, maya panya. Even one's own thinking is conditioned. When there's no hearing about the words of the truth at all, there cannot be the moment of thinking about no one, no self, no thing. It's only that which appears, even that is conditioned. So in a day, how much or how many moments thinking like that depends on conditions. That's why reality is developed by itself, to think in such way or this way as before, or a little more about the truth. See, by then there can be the understanding of no self, no control. It's there. No matter what kind of thinking is there, it's by conditions. Beginning to understand the development of intellectual understanding, sutta maya panya, and without it, at that very moment, no sound, but that which has been accumulated, conditioned the thinking about it. And later on, it can be moment of sudden, instantly aware of that reality, but very, very short and very, very weak understanding, because the understanding of intellect at level of intellectual understanding is not that moment which is aware. And panya develops because it's not clear. It's only with thinking about it. Even it appears they can be thinking about it. So even the vipassana jhana is natural. They can be thinking, and thinking is not that object which has its characteristic, specific characteristic, like hardness is hardness, and thinking is not hard. See, it's the way so natural, but panya is keen enough, and keen enough for each level of panya. Not more or less, it's just that. So panya knows clear how much understanding, even having heard about the arising and falling away, but it's there as not self, that's not arise and fall away, appearing yet. But from understanding intellectually, how can it arise without condition? It begins to have more understanding of paccaya, the second jhana, but it's not vipassana jhana, but to be conditioned to understand that when it appears, stage by stage. So it must come from this moment of understanding reality firm enough to understand that actually it's so very temporary. It's not there as we take as very permanent. My handbag or my everything, not at all. Only that which appears. So one can understand that the past is gone and the future has some hit. Even that is the nimitta of the rapidity of the arising and falling away. So how much ignorance is there from eons and eons ago, and begin to hear the truth and know what is there in reality, but it does not appear yet because it's not such level of developed panya. So Khanti Parami, Viriya Parami, Satya Parami, and Idana Parami are there now to know. No one is there, but Panya is not strong enough. Without developing from hearing, considering, no condition for higher or more Panya to understand that. Far from intellectual understanding. Because now is the Satipatthana, the Patipatti, the Kichayana, so very truthful to the truth. Otherwise, there cannot be time to understand it clearer and clearer, that which is there as a reality.
And also, you earlier you said the understanding of the truth can bring more parami, and I think I can sort of intellectually understand that a little more, because when like I said before, when the wisdom develops and you do see more of the truth, that it does bring about more sadha and perhaps metta. So I can see how it happens, but I also, while I was thinking of all that this morning, I also thought of the ads handle, how so very, very difficult it is, and how it just develops so slowly. So, you know, maybe for me it's just a lot of thinking, but it's thinking about the Dhamma. It's an intellectual understanding of how it's beginning to work. And that ads handle, well, that just, it's a good reminder of just how long it really takes and how it's unnoticeable.
Yeah. And that is the only way to let go the idea of self and things from that which is now appearing unknowingly, how much like the ex-handle. Dhamma works its way. No one is there. That's why Buddha taught about Cetasikas and Citta and Rupa, no I. So the more understanding of each reality when it's there will lead to more understanding. From Prayati, they cannot be Pativeta at once, but it needs Patipatti before they can be Pativeta. And without hearing, there cannot be such thinking about reality. Even thinking about that is conditioned. So to be truthful, how many times in a day? Maybe none at all. In that day, in that week, or in that month. Because even right now, we're talking about the truth. Is there any conditioned moment of direct awareness with understanding of that? See, no one can control. What about desire? It's there, not self, unknown. Because ignorance conditions more desire or attachment. So that's why the lopa is the second noble truth. If it's not known, then it's there now. See, even thinking, wanting is there. To think of that, or think with lopa all the time. Where's the spoon? Where's the knife? Wanting or not wanting at that moment to have it all day. So Panya can see the great accumulation of ignorance, like the universe, very, very hard to get rid of it. Just a moment at a time, see, and how much in a day, how many moments, depending on right understanding to understand it clearly, how much ignorance, and at moment of understanding, there is not ignorance with understanding at all. But it's there, so great that it can condition any moment after that. While we are thinking about Dhamma, and then it's gone. The other thought, thinking of other things is there. Suddenly, instantly, how many moments? Much more than the moment of thinking about Dhamma. That's why we do not underestimate each word of truth that is now understood little by little. This is the way, the Eightfold Path, very, very subtle, like other noble truth, the first, the second, and the third. Even the path is very subtle, that it's this moment, no other way, no other path, because no understanding of the truth of this moment. So there can be more understanding of Parami, all kinds, any moment of kusala is very precious because no attachment and ignorance are there. And this Panya Barami, Viriya Barami, Kanti Barami, and it can condition Dana Barami or Sila Barami. At that very moment, we don't know when, only when it's there. And understand the truth of each word, like Sila Parami, Patimokha Sangwara, Indriya Sangwara. See, we use the word Sila, but what is meant? The manners or the ways, Chitta, is there, arising and falling away, the way it is, by way of being Kusala or Akusala or Apayagata, Kiriya or Vipaka. See, to know more about no self as condition for Patipati and Pativeta later. So at that moment of thinking, see, like you said, when we are walking, there can be any level of panya, thinking with understanding, conditioned by intellectual understanding. And that moment later will condition moment of direct awareness and direct awareness of that very moment, thinking, like or dislike, depending on that moment. Who knows? They haven't arisen yet. But nothing can arise without conditions. Even now, Panya develops how much to let go. See, very natural. That is the understanding of Dhamma. No control, no one there, only by conditions. And what are conditions? We learn more, little by little, to understand the truth of that very moment as not self.
A lot to think about, Atam.
Yes. By conditions.
Yes, by conditions, because many times in the day there's no thinking of Dhamma whatsoever. It's just mostly attachment.
And when there's more understanding at that very moment, the understanding of just the reality at that moment as not self is there. Is there doubt? Is there reality? It's gone. The most important thing to know that it's not anyone. It's conditioned to be such and then gone. Never to arise again in samsara, in the circle of birth and death. Only once in a lifetime and in samsara as well. So how can it belong to anyone, or how can it be someone? It's it only. There are feelings with moments of citta, very, very fast. It seems like just only one there, but actually it's gone, see. That's why Panya learns to let go, and then when it's there, Panya can understand it more because no attachment to take it for something little by little. Feeling is feeling. And when pain is there, right understanding protect one from akusala. And right understanding can understand that as much as it has developed, even to realize the truth, approach the absolute truth, arising and falling away. So one has more confidence on the Buddha's virtues because the experiences that is there, condition how true it is. And it can be, and it can appear because it's there as it is, but only right understanding which let go the idea of self can be aware of our reality and understanding it more and more, little by little. And doubt can appear as object, or anything can appear as object. It depends on Panya, how much understanding of that very moment to know that it's not anything at all, no one there, because actually when one reality appears, no one, even vicikiccha, doubt, or like, or pleasant feeling, or unpleasant feeling, it depends on conditions. So the understanding of no self is more and more confident. And understand the virtues of Buddha more and more. And that is Buddha Nusati. Nusati is there thinking about the Buddha's virtues. How great benefit to hear the teachings, to understand the truth. So he's the great benefactor of the teachers.
Ajahn, I have a small question. We know that when understanding develops, as you were just talking about a little while ago, there has to be the development of the parami, kanti parami, virya parami, and so on together. But sometimes, and I'm not sure if you just said it then, but sometimes you mention that something like when the characteristic of no one appears, for example, at the moment of vipassana jnana, that is kanti parami, or that is virya parami. I'm just wondering if there's any significance when you mention that understanding is kanti parami rather than kanti parami develops with understanding.
Because you see that how long will it take to experience such understanding of that which appears. How long? See, and that is only that level of wisdom, vipassana jnana. That's why it's not the higher one, which more understanding, more letting go, but it is not there. So one knows that when will it be? It might take quite a long time, and it has to be unexpectedly. That's why the Khanti Barami means that no try to have it this or that level at all, little by little, because as long as attachment or lopa is there, it can be conditioned to arise, to be attached to anything, but not to the Lokuttara Dhamma. See? So Panya is keener and keener to understand that even that is not self. And that moment takes Viriya and Khanti.
Yes, there has to be great parami. It was just the way it was said, that is Khanti parami, which I wondered about. So there has to be great Khanti parami for that understanding to develop to that degree.
More and more and more and more level of understanding, higher and higher and higher, before there can be the experiencing of higher vipassana jnana. For example, when it is the first vipassana jnana, no one there, only that one object at a time, no world. See, how can there be the imagination of how can it be what like at all? Because it doesn't appear yet. It's not that level yet. So it cannot be expected at all. But even so, it's only the first. So after that, vipassana jnana, namarupa, paricchetta jnana, even the first one, it needs more to understand what are there in life by conditions, because that cannot be forgotten at all. When you see someone and you know, you don't forget that when you see it again, you know what is there. But when it's not vipassana jnana, it's not clear. That's why vipassana jnana is so short, because when we talk about the moments of citta, how can we imagine the arising and falling away in split seconds? But even so, Panya is keen enough just to that level. There's no doubt about the characteristic of Dhamma. The experience is nothing. There is nothing when the experience is the object. No shape, no form, no thing, but it experiences is there. And it's gone. Vipassana jnana is very short, like any moment now. So after that, it has to be parinya, yata parinya, which is conditioned by nama, rupa, paricchetta jnana. So one understands what's meant by the difference between vipassana jnana and the parinya, yata parinya. Since the characteristic of nama and rupa have been experienced, not enough. It has to understand what is there in life naturally as it is, because now there is feeling, and we know from the book, from hearing, that pariyati, that it's not self, it feels, but from the namarupa paricchetta jnana, it's more than just that it feels and it's there, but the characteristic of that has to be the object, on and on and on, to become used to that which is not self, because another higher level of vipassana jnana can be there. And from hearing about conditions, the pajja, it does not need to say what pajja is there, but from learning about the different pajja, the understanding of that is the moment of understanding the pajja of that which appears without word. So the understanding of no one at all And what is there is conditioned by paccaya will lead to more letting go, the idea of self. That's why the vipassana, the understanding, the jnana, the nama, rupa, paricetayana applies in daily life by conditions to condition the higher vipassana jnana before the arising and falling away of reality can be the object of the uttiyapiyana. So it takes more and more, higher and higher, stage by stage. No one can have the high one and then the low one later. It's impossible. That's why Khanti Barami is there. Even we don't call it Khanti. And without that, how can there be the higher understanding, the higher vipassana jnana?
Yes, great. Kanti Parami has to be developed on and on, greater and greater.
All Khanti Barami, including Panya Barami, see?
Did you
Without
say,
Panya, it cannot be Barami.
did you say all Kanti Parami, including Panya Parami?
All Barami must
All
be
Parami,
aligned
including.
with Panya.
Yes.
Without Panya, even how much Viriya is there is not Barami.
No. That's clear. Thank you.
That's
Roti?
why Barami will lead to more understanding until reality appears, reveal itself, show itself as no one, no thing, not the other reality, just that. And then gone. More confidence of anatthaness. And that is the point of the teachings of the Buddha, to understand the truth of reality, to enlighten, not just understanding from thinking. But the characteristic is there now, and because it's so real, it arises and falls away. It can be penetrated, but not by anyone. The idea of self trying to do it, it's impossible because it's covered up by ignorance and attachment. So as long as there's more and more attachment, it covers up the truth because it clings to that which appears, not understanding that before that, the reality before that has gone. Otherwise, that reality cannot appear. Just only one by one moment. So we study the teachings with high respect, without the word which bring about more careful understanding of the difference of the truth one by one. It's impossible to let go the whole which are together as one thing or person at all. Because it's just that which is there. All are there, unknown. But to understand one by one that what are there will lead to more understanding of no self.
ท่านอาจารย์ครับ even pariyatti is very rare in the samsara, and I fully agree that for someone with high understanding, each pariyatti, each moment is very precious for the condition of other understanding. Can you talk more about how much ignorance there is and how little understanding there is?
The moment now is the proof of one's own understanding. Who knows about the other's understanding? But at this moment, no one, only that which appears as object, how much understanding is that. But the truth which has been heard so many times in this life is only that which can be seen, understanding it little by little. Other reality cannot be seen at all. Is that true? Close your eyes. There can be sound appearing, and the reality which experience is not known yet, but it's there. So many realities are there, unknown, because of ignorance, not hearing the right word from the one who has enlightened. But after that, study and careful, to be careful, not to just think that I understand, but actually only the word of truth is understood. But the truth of that which is there now does not appear as what one has heard yet. So the understanding of this, there's no doubt about the difference between the intellectual understanding and the moment when it's there, just one at a time. And understand what's meant by satipatthana or sati sampajanya is different from moment of intellectual understanding. There is panya and there is sati, but who knows, as nothing is directly object of understanding yet. The understanding of this can be more and more firmer and firmer, more confident, which will condition moment of understanding this moment of touching, understanding this moment of touching, that what is there? No thing, no bed, no chair, no flower, nothing, only that which appears as it is, no matter it is hard or hot. It's a reality at moment of being the object of experiencing. But the idea of self or something is there, thinking is there all day, all life, from morning to night. See, but in reality, what appears is there, and it does not appear as it really is, because how little it is, because it just arises and falls away, and the arising and falling away of that, it's not directly experienced, but from hearing about the process of citta, one knows how little it is. So very short, because now it appears as something already. What about the moment of experience that, which is that which impinge on the eye? The whole table cannot impinge on the eye, but that which is there, which is hard, is that which impinges on the eye to condition moment of the arising of that which experiencing it. This is the way it is. Who can change? It's the absolute truth. It has to be like this. Without that, there cannot be condition for seeing to arise. And now seeing sees how little it is, how fast it is. No one can imagine at all, because what can be object of appearing is only nimitta. So from the rapidity of the arising and falling away of realities right now, the nimitta of a bird, of a tree, or a chair, of people and things are there. Instantly, how many people are there? Not only one. If we are with your friends or your family, at once they appear as just in a moment. But actually, what is that which is the reality which can impinge on the eye? No bird can impinge on the eye, but only that which is there, but that we take for bird or chair, impinged on the eye, and then gone. How fast it is for everything to appear at once when they see. So there can be the understanding of the truth are covered up, not only now, but many life before, years and years. And this is a moment of beginning to consider the truth. What is the absolute truth? Has to be absolute truth. No one can change. How come to have such understanding? From the word of the enlightened one, the Buddha, So one begins to see, to know the Buddha from his word and from one's own panya. If there is no understanding of this, who knows the Buddha? No one. Just call Buddha, Buddha. But what is that? What does it mean? The Buddha, the enlightened one? No understanding of what is the enlightenment. Enlighten what? See? So the beginning of understanding Dhamma, there can be the Buddhanusati, as little as Panya is there, and more, when Panya is more and more, until enlightenment. No doubt about the virtues of the Buddha and the absolute, the Four Noble Truths at all. So it takes time because how much ignorance is there. But from hearing, there is the understanding of patience. No one at all to hurry to realize the truth. Impossible. It's wrong. So one begins to understand the truth of each word. What is it? When we talk about patience as Bodhi, Dhamma, the Dhamma factors which will condition moment of enlightenment, it is this moment, understanding little by little, and the understanding itself experience the truth. No one, no me. Develop just the understanding, and that which develop is not I, it's different dhammas, Bodhipakya Dhamma. There must be chanda, see, interest to understand the truth, because not many people are interested in understanding the truth, talking about the truth. They think that, oh, it doesn't bring about anything value or precious at all for him. Just live happily, that's all. No chanda to listen to the truth, to know that it's so true, it's so very, very difficult, the most difficult in samsara, not just in this life. So it begins the developing of khanti. No rush, no hurry to try the other way or any way to understand the truth. But panya is the reality which understand, develops little by little from considering wisely about each word, how deep it is. Because it does not appear as it's there and then gone. So we can talk about any word of the teachings of the Buddha to understand that they are not self. Each one is a reality, conditioned. Otherwise, nothing can arise. Even seeing is conditioned. Hearing, thinking, everything. That's why we learn a little more about the truth by way of Pajya or by way of Ayatana or by way of Riyasata, by way of Paticcasamuppada. To understand the truth, no one, only different realities. Little by little. That's why we have discussion to understand the truth. And that's not enough. When they are conditioned to read, to develop, to think about it, to consider, and at that very moment when condition is ripe enough, is there to condition awareness of that object with understanding. Even touching right now, see, there can be a moment of understanding that it's hard or it's seen only, see, little by little.
Janice, Roti is the, I can see Roti now. I'd like to help bring up a question he has been asking on DSG. Some time ago, there was a discussion with Lucas, I think it was, about regret. And one comment you made was, it's so very deep because even we talk about regret, it's regret who is talking, who is speaking, see the I that is there unknown. And Roti was asking about what you meant by this sentence.
By what, please?
I'll repeat it again. It's so very deep because even we talk about regret. It's regret who is talking, who is speaking.
Excuse me, not only regret of whatever is there. What about attachment, aversion, mana, conceit? We talk about all dhammas, not only regrets. They are all different, but they are dhammas, real as it is. Regret is regret. So what is the regret that Buddha used the term to make it known as regret? It's there without word, but it's different from loba. If we don't use any term, any word at all, how can we know the difference? But to say regret, is it real? And what is it? To understand from the very beginning, it's not just a word, but what characteristic is it? That's the meaning of we talk about the truth of our reality. Not just assume that we are talking about regret, but what is it in reality? It's real as much as we know because it's there. It's different from other, not attachment. See? So what is it?
So, Ajahn, instead of regret, you might have said reality or Dhamma. We talk a lot about reality and Dhamma, and there's reality, Dhamma now, and there's no understanding.
Mm-hmm. But why do you say that it regrets?
Thinking about it, about certain experiences.
So what is that? Is it ignorance?
No, it's a kind of, it's
That
like
conceit?
kind of dosa, just being unhappy about when we're thinking about what has been done or not done.
Because there are realities which arise at moment of dosa as well, but they are different. For example, itsa, see, it's not regret.
No,
Matriya is not regret. So what is regret?
I think that regret is when there is thought and the wishing that one had behaved in a different way, like wishing that one had been kinder a moment ago when speaking, for example, or wishing that one hadn't got cross yesterday. So it's the wishing of thinking about what was done or not done in the past.
That's why I try to know what regret is. But when regret is there, it's a kind of a reality, right?
Yes.
Which conditioned and the pleasant and the feeling at that moment is unpleasant feeling. So the understanding of the unpleasant feeling, it has to be what we call dosa. Doesn't like it, dislike to be regret. No one would like to regret at all. See, but it's there by conditions and it's gone. Is it something more important?
It's just it's just a Dhamma. I think it was just the expression that when you said it was regret who is talking or speaking, well, it could be any reality. Perhaps it just means any reality we're talking about. And when you said the I is there unknown, well, it could be the same when talking about lobha or mana. So the hidden I that takes it for being one's regret or one's dosa or one's lobha can be there anytime.
It's different from dosa, that's all.
Yes,
Because it's think about the past or the future.
that's all. Roti, would you like to add anything more or on that
It's
question?
like clinging to understanding regret.
No.
Because when it's regret at that moment and there is awareness and understanding it as just a reality, it's gone.
Yep.
So it's not just a matter of calling it what it's what, but the reality is there as different from other reality. But it is a reality, just arise, appears and disappears like the other realities.
And the other point I think is that sometimes we pick up, or friends pick up words you have said, but actually one's own understanding now is more precious, because understanding what reality is now is what actually counts, no matter what the words used are.
Because
Otherwise, we get stuck on the words and forget about just understanding what appears now.
Usually we think about thing, something, even regret is thing or something. We don't talk about whether it's Nama and Rupa, but it's a reality. When we use the reality, it means the understanding of that as not thing or that was thing or whatever is there. It's a thing, and thing doesn't mean only the touchable object or anything, but it's something or thing. We don't classify it as Nama and Rupa yet, but it's there as a thing, unknown, that is just the moment of such that as not self. But the idea of wanting to understanding the word is there when it does not appear. But when it appears, no word, the understanding of that it is different from the other reality or other thing is there. And with our word, there can be the understanding of the truth that it is conditioned to be there, no matter what. No word, no thought about words, because the reality appears as just there. And Panya only knows that it's a reality. But when there's no Panya, it's a thing, it's regret, or it's whatever one can talk about it to express or to make it known as that reality. But actually, that reality is experienced, no word, because of understanding, like see now, no word to say that it's that which is seen, but it's there. See, when sound appears, no word for it appears to hearing, but it's there. And how can we try to explain this, make the sound to be known as sound? See, it's not just like when moment when it appears. That's why at moment when whatever appears, the panya does not think about what word is there. Is it regret or dosa or isa or whatever? But that characteristic appear as it is. But Buddha thought about everything because so keen, and his great panya can use the word for the other to understand the characteristic of that. But ignorance, can we know the difference between phassa and vitaka? See, just hearing that phassa is a cetasika which contact, and vitaka is that which touch the object or so on. And what is the difference when panya, when phassa does not appear as phassa and vitaka does not appear as it is, but when is there no word beyond word, because the characteristic of that reality appears as no one and nothing. So the point is that even without word like Pajjika, no need to talk about the difference like the Buddha and so on, but he experienced directly more than Savaka, see, less than Buddha. See, that's why we begin to understand that realities are beyond word, but the words help one to consider what is a true, like attachment. We use this word for the moment of clinging and being attached but it's not known that now it's there. See, so the words of the teaching of the Buddha condition the understanding of the difference of reality as much, and only when it appears, no word understanding is there, as one has heard about dosa and lopa, that what is there, but no word, no need to say that, oh, now lopa is now appearing, oh, now dosa, it's not that, but the characteristic of that reality appears as it is. And we can say, as Buddha taught, because without word, who can understand the difference between lopa and dosa? See, it's the same as regret and itsa and matsuriya and dosa. It's there, but depend on whether it appears or not, and depend on panya, how much it's know about that. Because there is doubt and perplex as soon as it's there. What's that? What's that? See, all the words that have heard and studied are not there. Not enough to understand that it's beyond the word, because what we have heard appear as we have heard about someone and we haven't met yet. And when we met, there can be the understanding that it's that we have heard that about that person. So when we are talking about regret, at moment when it's there, no understanding of it as a reality, no thought about whether it is regret different from dosa and issa and so on, no time at all. But the understanding of the characteristic of regret is not enough to know that it's not self. But when there is more understanding, it appears the difference between realities, not the same at all. That's why there are so many words of reality, even dosa, payapada, and so on, different words because of different degree. So we are talking about reality, which is not known as reality, but as something like regret or hatred or so on. We are talking about that. But when it's there, how much panya enough to understand the truth that it's not self. It's a reality that we have heard. No one, no self at all. Depends on panya. But our panya is not as the Buddha's panya. We cannot use any word to make it known as it is, clearer and clearer. But Buddha, the great, no one can compare with his wisdom, the virtues of the wisdom so great, that from his word they can bring about the understanding of the meaning of it as it is, even it's not there. But when it's there, Panya knows with our word that what is that is taught by the Buddha. And we have learned and we have heard. Like dosa, see, it's there. But it's I or me all the time. Even hearing that dosa cannot be taken for anyone. But the accumulation of ignorance and clinging to the idea of self as something is there. No time to understand it until Panya developed enough unexpectedly. It can begin to understand a little about that because it's gone so very fast. But from moment of its arising, there can be a little more understanding developing. And this is what is meant by bhavana, the development of understanding little by little. That's why it says bhavana, not just in a moment of hearing. Impossible. So it's no matter we're talking about regret or anything, only words, but the reality arising unknown until panya is there and see the difference between each reality as it is. Like ignorance and attachment, see? And this is a way to learn Dhamma, to know that where is Dhamma and when is it and what is there as Dhamma. We don't study the word, but we understanding what we heard now is there now, to be known, to be studied, whether it's like what we heard. For example, seeing right now, it's there. What is seen is only that which is seen. Little by little, there's no thinking about shape and form as something until the mind door appears, see, experience the same as a sense door, but by way of replica or photocopy, different from the sense door. Just learn to understand that actually there's no self, little by little, until Panya is there at the moment when it's there, seeing or hearing or thinking or liking or regret. But if one tries so hard to understand the word, and when the reality is there, no understanding, that it's that we have heard before, because we cling to know, or sometimes they can be conditioned to, what is that? And it depends if someone would think what is called, say, it's useless. It's not the moment of understanding the characteristic which appears as no one and no thing, and it does not last at all. Later, when it arises and falls away, can be directly experienced because it's so true at this very moment. So we learn from the teachings, the sutta, no matter what sutta, just talk about realities. Not about other things, but what is there now, which does not show up yet, because only Panya can directly penetrate the truth of what is going on now.
So, Roti, I think the point in that sentence that caused some confusion was just that no matter whether we're talking about regret or dosa or loba or any other reality, so often there is the idea of something, and so often the idea of mine, my regret, my loba, my dosa. So the point is that the understanding of the reality when it appears is different from the thinking about the idea of regret or dosa as being something to be known, or as my regret or my dosa. I think that's all. But no, sometimes the words are not clear, or there may have been a typo, so it's more important to just understand the reality now than to be hung up or mind about the particular words of expression. Do you have any comments? I can't hear you, Roti. You need to unmute.
I think it's clear now. Yeah, thank you. I have no comment.
And again, another comment, another question that came up on Saturday, and I don't think, I think that a little more could be discussed. Tam Bak, I thought she was here, but I can't see her now. She asked about Bawa, when we were talking about Bawasava, for example, or after birth, the first mind or process when there's clinging to Bawa Tanha, and what exactly the reality of Bawa is, whether it's what Chitta, what Cetasika it is, what it exactly is bhava, whether it's a reality or a concept. Could you add a little more?
Oh, yes. When we talk about bhava, is it now? See,
Yes, it is
beginning
now.
to understand it when it's there. If it's not there, how can there be the understanding of it? So is there bhava now?
There is bhava now. Because there's life, there has to be bhava now.
Yes, bhava of what? Each has its own bhava, right?
Right.
To be such, to be such. To be is bhava. To be hard is bhava of hardness. Just to be hard. To be hate. Just to be hate. The bhava of hate is hating. It cannot be like. It cannot have bhava of liking. So bhava is that which is there as it is. The feminine bhava, femininity, masculinity is bhava of it. It cannot be out of bhava. It has to be as it is, to be as it is. To be human being, to be an ant, to be a giant, to be a deva, bhava of such is that which is be. So just one word can bring about understanding of any bhava because it has its own bhava to be such only.
The clinging just to being alive, John. Just being alive.
And bhava of rupa, it cannot experience anything. Each reality has its bhava to be such, only such, cannot be changed. Otherwise, how can we say hard, soft? The bhava to be such is its bhava, cannot be changed.
I thought you said there couldn't be bhava of attachment a few minutes ago. I may have misheard.
When attachment is there, it's not hatred. So what is bhava of attachment and what is bhava of hatred? It cannot be changed.
It cannot be changed.
It has to be as it is because that is a bhava of that.
And when it's said that clinging conditions bhava, and we know that if we're talking about dependent origination, this refers to either karma or the birth. When it's talking about the birth, the bhava, in that case, is it any different from the bhava we're talking about now, the birth of each reality?
Yeah, we have to understand the origin, the way it is. For example, bhava is that it is there as it is. So when we talk about karma, see, when we talk about bhava of karma, that it condition the birth, the upati bhava or the karma bhava.
Yes.
No change. The bhava of karma, it
Right.
is condition for birth, bhava of birth.
Yes. So it's there talking about particular bhava of karma and upadi bhava. And if it's the referring to any, sorry.
Yes, the bhava of each reality as it is.
Of each reality.
Each has its own bhava
So
to
if
be as it is.
so, when we talk about bhavasava, then it's usually just the clinging to being or existing, not referring to any reality as it is.
Like paticcasamuppada, kamma bhava, condition upatibhava. See, the same word, it cannot be changed. The bhava of karma is that, and the bhava of upatibhava is that, birth.
And when it's bhavasava, then it's just the very subtle clinging to the existing of any reality.
Mm-hmm. Because we just talk about the asava. There are so many bhava, but what bhava is the asava. And what kind of bhava is each asava, of each asava? Kamasava, clinging to what? And then even it's not the clinging to kama, the sense of there is bhavasava, another bhava, which is asava, but not as kamasava.
So it's really just showing it's still clinging, even though it's not to sense objects at that moment, the very subtle clinging.
As it is of its own bhava to be.
It's a very deep,
Chitta-asava, different, but it has its own bhava.
it's a very deep meaning. Bhava.
Or bhava-sava, or chitta-asava, or avijja-asava.
It's still bhava is there because it's still the ditthi, it still has bhava, or any reality has bhava.
So when there's more understanding and clear understanding, no doubt about what is heard as bhava. When we talk about kamas, we know what is meant, what degree of attachment of sensuous object is different from more when there is clinging, very, very weak, unknown as bhavasava. Only arahata can eradicate that.
So bhava is the nature of any reality. So whatever reality is, it must have bhava. Even any rupa must have bhava.
Right. Bhava to be rupa, cannot experience any object at all. And rupa, bhava to be heard, bhava to be sound, or bhava to be heard, or bhava to be touched.
So
no one can explain the truth of reality, but it can be explained by different manners and different aspects to condition understanding of it as it is, as bhava of it. That cannot be taken for anyone or anything.
we use different concepts now to talk about it, but actually it's referring to the nature of reality or the truth of reality referred to in different ways. Yeah.
When there's no understanding of the nature of it, there can be doubt about the word. What does it mean? What is that? But when there is the understanding of the nature of reality, there's no doubt about no matter power of paticcasamuppada or asava or what is there.
I think the question arose in the context of the asava. So bhavasava and dhammasava presumably have different meaning in that context.
think that was not clinging to the object, still clinging, clinging to the nature of any reality that is not sense object. To just existing of reality.
Sarah, can you repeat that? That made it a little clearer for me. That last comment you made.
So when it's kamasava, as we know, it's the subtle clinging to sense objects. But even when there's no clinging to sense objects, like the anagami has no clinging to sense objects, but there's still the clinging to the experiencing of different realities. There's still clinging to the existing of continuation of chittas, for example, but it's not clinging to sense objects
Or
eye consciousness.
hearing, as opposed to the object.
Yes, well, Ajahn has
Still
just broadened it out, hasn't she?
Yes, still clinging to life, continuation of life, even though it's not the experiencing of sense objects or to the experiencing itself of those objects.
I thought I'd heard Ajahn talk about the bhava of something hard, of a sense object.
Hardness.
Hardness, yes.
Any hardness, any reality, she was
Yes.
saying, has its bhava. So the hardness,
Yes.
bhava of hardness is different from the bhava of softness or the bhava of
Yes.
heat. So any reality has its bhava, but when we're talking about bhavasava,
Yes, okay.
it's different aspect. It's a clinging to
Yes.
bhava, to the nature of reality, but not sense objects such as hardness or softness or
Oh, I
the
see.
realities experienced through the sense doors.
That would be gamasava.
That would be kamasava. Yes.
Gamasava.
So it's the clinging to the existing of realities, but not sense objects or sense experience.
Yes.
So the anagami still has the accumulation of subtle clinging, very subtle clinging to being existing, but not to sense objects.
Right. Right. So it sounds like it's, well, it's, well, I guess has been said, it's being, it's existence, it's
As
existence.
represented
way.
by consciousness, I think.
Yes.
Different kinds
So
of
the objects experienced through consciousness are not called sense objects.
When it refers to kamasava, it is the any objects experienced through the sense doors or to the sense experiencing itself. So seeing or visible object, hearing or sound. So kamasava is the subtle clinging to these objects, and bhavasava is the clinging that is not to these objects, subtle clinging not to these objects. So for the one who has eradicated clinging to sense objects, the anagami, there's still the subtle clinging to other kinds of existing or being, but not to those realities experienced through the sense doors.
So they are mind objects, like, for example, absorption states or something like that,
Like
right?
to jhana, for example, which is not a
Right.
sense object.
Mhm.
Right.
So the point Ajahn was making, as I understood it, is that any reality has bhava. So there is the bhava or the existing or of any reality, no matter nama or rupa. but different contexts, different kinds of power of different realities are referred to.
Yeah. And the asavas.
The asava is to those realities, not sense objects. And in dependent origination, when it says that upadana, clinging, conditions bhava, is referring to the bhava of karma, and that bhava of karma conditions upadi bhava, the bhava of birth. So bhava is has quite a deep, quite a subtle word, quite deep in meaning. So it's always, Tam's question was whether it's referring to reality or concept. Actually, it's always referring to reality, different kinds of realities. But of course, we use concepts to describe or discuss them.
They can be considered and reconsider and reconsider until the understanding of anything that hasn't been understood yet get a little bit clearer and clearer. For example, if there is a question when it's not the jhana citta at all, can there be the pavasava?
Yes.
See, this is the understanding of what's meant by bhava, something which has its own characteristic. As it is, when it's clinging to the sense object, it is different from at the moment which cling to other objects. And that which cling even not to the kamasava or the jhana, that is clinging to the bhava of the being. That which is life of being is there. So when there is no citta, cittasika, rupa arising at all, there's no world, no attachment at all, nothing at all. But when something is there, not as known as through the what rupa and the nama, like the jhana, but that is there no clinging to that being or bhava. See? So it depends on panya to understand what, even it's there in life, it's not known as it is until we heard about the difference and begin to see the very fine line of each reality and then beginning to understand first the characteristic which is not self, which is that which experiences and that which cannot experience, to know that no matter what, it cannot be taken for anything permanent or thing or self at all. See, that's why just develop the understanding from considering little by little and understanding more, little by little too, that bhava is the clinging to the being, something there. Like sometimes we just wake up not thinking about anything, not experience anything, but who knows, or whether panya is there to know that there is clinging of such moment which is different from pravanka. Ignorance is there, avichasava, and clinging pavasava is there.
And even when there's just like now, little clinging to thinking, it's not sensed or experienced, but just clinging to thinking there. Well, it's more than asava because it's more than asava, but it's still just clinging to that. Can we say it's a clinging to the bhava of the thinking? It's still clinging there, but it's not sense object clinging.
And the understand of this will condition less attachment and ignorance and clinging to the idea of self, little by little, without the beginning of understanding how come to be a moment of letting go what is there, as it can be experienced.
And it's good to know because it's good to understand that how subtle the clinging can be and how it can be clinging so quickly and in such subtle ways in between other kinds of clinging that one is so used to thinking about, like clinging to sense objects or to ordinary thinking right now.
That's why before there can be the realization of the truth directly, there must be the understanding of anatta, no self, to condition more and more detachment, letting go of that. So reality can appear according to what level of panya is there. As not self, appear as not self, no thing. So it has to be this moment, even is panjati or nimitta of a reality.
And like
But
you
it's not more than nimitta of a reality, it's nimitta of something there, birds and things.
like you were saying earlier when talking about pachya and what appears, it's not the words, or it's just the understanding of realities. So no matter what it's called or defined, there can be the understanding when the reality appears. That's the main point. That was very helpful and interesting. Thank you, Ajahn. I think it's about time, so thank you. Sawadika.
Thank you. Bye-bye.